Welcome to Drawing Stories with me, Cheri Lee Charlton. Today we're going to be drawing a story that's inspired by one of my favorite themes, outer space. So I've done a couple illustrations specifically about a little boy and his pet rabbit that go on space adventures. I actually have one of those images to share with you here. This is an image of, this is Jack, and this is his bunny, who I just call Space Bunny. And this is an illustration I did on my computer, and then I turned it into a silkscreen print. And this is a moment where Jack and the Space Bunny meet a robot that looks kind of scary, but it turns out that the robot is very friendly and just is looking to make new friends. So I thought today we would do an image with robots, and I'm going to show you how to draw robots. I'll get you started, and then we'll think about how we can take that robot and put it in a story. We may add more details, environments, other creatures or aliens, or you could even put yourself in a spacesuit meeting your very own robot. So let's get started. All you need is a pencil and some paper. I'm also going to go on to color this with markers, but you don't have to color yours with markers. You can color yours any way you want, or you can just draw it. All right, let's get started. Okay, so we are going to start by drawing a robot. The first thing you need is a piece of paper and a pencil. I am going to color this afterwards and use markers, but you can use anything you want to color it when you're finished, or you can just leave it black and white. It's up to you. I'm going to start by drawing my robot on the right side of the paper. I want to leave a little bit of room for some visual storytelling on the left. So I'm going to start on this side, and robots are just like everything else. You can break them down into shapes. Now, robots tend to have a lot of geometric shapes, so squares, triangles, rectangles, circles in them. So we're going to use a lot of shapes that you're familiar with and that you've drawn a lot, I'm sure. We want to make sure we have room for our whole robot body. And how we do that is we're going to start with the head at the top of our paper, but leave just a little bit of room, like about a thumb's length, so we can put an antenna on top of our robot. All right, so I'm going to start with the first shape, which is going to be a square. And this is going to be our robot's head. Then I'm going to do two little lines for the neck, and then a larger rectangle for the stomach and the chest. And remember, if you make a line that you don't like, you can always erase it if you're using a pencil. Then I'm going to draw two rectangles that are eventually going to be the robot's legs. So I'm going to start with a longer rectangle, and then one right next to it, and put a little bit of space, but you can put your finger in between. That helps. Then I'm going to do my robot arms. So I'm going to start with a smaller rectangle at the top of my chest belly square. And do two of those so they're symmetrical. They're the same size and on the same place on both sides of my center belly chest robot square. And then I'm going to add the robot feet at the bottom, which are just going to be smaller rectangles. All right, now we're going to add some details to a robot. So we're going to start with the face. I'm going to start with an antenna at the top. So I'm going to draw two skinny lines next to each other in the center of the top square rectangle shape. That's the head. And then I'm going to put a circle on top. Then I'm going to add two big round eyes. I'm going to do a triangle nose right in the center of the two eyes. And then I'm going to make a robot mouth. Now you can just do a smiley face if you want. I'm going to make my robot a happy robot. So I'm going to make almost like a long bean shape. That's like a smile. And I can erase the lines that I don't need. And then I'm going to put in some lines to make my robot teeth. I'm going to add some details, like put another circle shape around my eyes. I'm going to add robot ears, which are going to be more antennas. So I'm going to do two little lines on each side that are symmetrical. That means the same on both sides. And add two more circles to the end, kind of like I did on the top. I'm going to add some wires around my antenna just to make it look a little bit more interesting. You don't have to do this, but it makes it look like an electrical device from old movies. I'm going to do that on both sides. My cat wants to join us, so we're going to kick her off. Say hi to everybody, Hadley. Hi, everybody. Then I'm going to do my robot arms. So I'm going to make swirls. These are going to be like wires that the arms are attached to, or the hands are attached to. And you can make them as long as you want. And then I'm going to put robot hands, which I'm going to make these sideways E shapes. So I'm going to start with a rainbow shape on both sides. And then almost make like an E or an M. It looks a little bit like an M too. Now I'm going to add details to this. My cat really wants to play along or draw along. To the center of my robot. So you can do almost anything you want. I like to make it look kind of like an old time computer screen a little bit, or an old machine, but you can just make one big rectangle and draw lines in it or circles, or you can just copy what I do. So I'm going to start by making smaller shapes inside my belly chest rectangle. I'm going to change the shape and the size of them so it looks a little bit like I'm drawing buttons or computer parts. I'm going to draw another skinny rectangle inside this rectangle and do a V zigzag so it looks like it's monitoring my robot's robot heart perhaps. I'm going to draw some circle shapes under here, maybe some circles and squares to make them look like different buttons. And then another few shapes inside just to make it look like it's a computerized robot. I'm going to draw some more details to make my robot look like it's made out of machine parts. Now, machine parts tend to have bolts and joints, so we're going to draw some bolts, so it makes it look like our robot was put together mechanically. So I might draw a couple little circles around the edges of my shapes to make it look like somebody built this robot, maybe in a lab. I can draw some lines in the joints, like the neck and the arms. I can draw some bolts around the edges of my robot head. I can make some knee joints. And then maybe draw bolts to think about how this part was attached to this part when they built my robot. You are essentially building a robot by drawing it right now. And then this is my robot foot or feet. So maybe I'll give him or her some robot toes. All right, I'm a pretty good robot, but my robot's all alone. So now we want to think about how can we tell a story with our picture? What could we add to this picture to make it more interesting, or tell a story that's happening to our robot or around our robot? So I think I'm going to put my robot on another planet. So if my robot's on another planet, maybe they've arrived on a spaceship and they've just met another alien or astronaut, or perhaps this robot lives on this planet and you could draw yourself as an astronaut that's just arrived and meeting this robot and you're becoming friends with this robot. So I'm going to start by drawing another character. And again, you can draw an alien, you can draw yourself, you can draw a bunny rabbit, you can draw whatever you want. But think about how you can create more pictures around your robot to tell a story with it. So I'm going to start by drawing myself as an astronaut. So I'm going to draw my space helmet. It's going to be round. I'm going to draw my body. I might just start with a square shape and then 2 rectangles that come off her legs. I'm going to draw my arm. I'm going to be waving at this robot. So I'm going to have one arm going up and one arm going down. And remember, if you need to draw over those shapes, all you have to do is erase them. That's why we're using a pencil. So anytime you draw one shape over another one, you can go back and erase the lines you don't need. Now I need some hands, but if I'm in outer space, I probably have gloves on. So I'm gonna draw my hands with big, heavy space gloves. And then I can put some details on my space suit. Maybe this is a little light so my friends who went to space with me can see me, because it might be pretty dark in outer space. I can add little details to my space suit. Computers, microphones, maybe a little jetpack, air canisters so I can breathe when I'm out in walking around on this other planet. I'm going to draw my face inside my space helmet. So I'm going to start with a circle inside a circle. I'm going to draw my eyes, my nose, and my mouth. And I'm looking up at my robot, so I'm going to put my eyeballs looking towards the robot. I'm going to draw my hair. I'm not going to shade it in because I'm going to color this in with markers. And then my neck and chin, maybe my ears, eyebrows, can erase any of the lines I don't need. Maybe I want to put an antenna on my space helmet too, so I can talk to my other space friends or communicate with my robot. I could put these little pointy marks that show electricity or kind of illustrate this idea of communication, and I could do the same thing on my robot, like I just sent it a message. I do these little marks on the glass to make it look like it's shiny. These are kind of a technique for illustrating glass. And then I'm going to connect to my air pack to my helmet, so I know I'm getting fresh air in outer space. I'm going to give myself a big space utility belt. Maybe I could have space treats in there. And then I think I'm going to give myself some big space boots, so it's easier for me to walk around. On this planet. All right, so I've almost finished myself as a space explorer. Like I said, you could also draw an alien, you could draw a creature, or just yourself standing there. You don't even have to be in a spacesuit because this is your story, and you can use your imagination to make up whatever you want. Now, my planet that my robot and space traveler on is kind of rocky, so I'm going to show that by sort of drawing these rocky edges. And I want to show that my robot or my other images or people or aliens in my picture are standing on a ground by doing these lines under their feet so it doesn't look like they're floating away. I'm going to draw some space mountains, rocky terrain that's behind my robot. And this line that goes all the way across, which is called a horizon line, to show where our point of view in the picture. Okay, well, now I still have this big empty space here. What else could I do? I'm thinking maybe I could show that there's a spaceship going over this planet. So if you want to draw a spaceship, it's pretty easy. You just start with the same basic shapes like we did with our robot and our space person. I'm going to start with a shape that has a flat line and a pointy top. So I'm going to make a shape that kind of curves in, and when I finish, I'm going to make a point, almost like a giant carrot. And this is going to be my spaceship. I'm going to draw a smaller rectangle at the bottom, and then one more, and lines through those. This is where the rocket fuel and the flame that are propelling the robot are going to come out, and you can draw a flame. And when you color that, you can make that look a little bit more like a fire or a flame color, so it makes more sense. I'm going to draw the sides of my rocket. This helps it fly straight in the sky, perhaps, or it's what it lands on when it lands on a planet. I'm going to draw some fun details and decorate my rocket. I could also make it have an antenna. Perhaps the rocket is communicating with my space explorer and my robot. I'm going to draw a window on my rocket, just a round shape, and then a couple more lines through it just to make it a little bit more interesting and decorative. And then I'm going to draw some of those bolt shapes, the little circles, so it shows how this rocket was built and put together. You could write your name here. You could write the abbreviation for the country that you live in or your state. I'm gonna do some stars. So I'm gonna draw some stars. And then I'm gonna draw another little space explorer. That's inside the rocket. Add a couple more details. You could also add some planets. You could add a planet like Saturn. You start with a circle. Make sure when you draw your planets in the background that you don't go over any of the things you've drawn in the front of the picture or the foreground. You want to make sure that you draw them behind everything. So if I draw these rings, it would go behind my mountains. Here's Saturn rings. You can draw some shapes on your planet. You could also do this with crayons or markers or watercolor, wherever you color it. Might draw another round planet over here. Some squiggles through it. Make it look like it has a lot of, kind of like a gassy planet that has different colors. You could draw some little circles for stars. You could draw stars. You could draw shooting stars. And notice how I'm going back and I'm erasing the lines that I drew through things that I don't really need. Okay. So now we have a pretty awesome space story with our main character, a robot. But I think I want to make it look like my space explorer and my robot are looking at each other. So I'm going to draw eyeballs looking down towards my other character so I can see the friendship that these two characters are about to create. Or maybe they've always...